Now, quickly, can you define the agentic movement for people who don't know that term?
Yeah, so agentic movement has a bunch of fun like definitions, but more likely than not, the high level breakdown of what agentic movement is kind of like having a robot that you can give orders to, and it can go and execute on that plan as an agent, not just an LLM. So I don't know that a lot of people know this exists. This is like new. So came in and forgive me, because this is for the tech nerds. So another week, another podcast.
Yep. What's up? How's it going this week?
This week is a whirlwind. We are about a month and some change away from Baby Day, which is really, really exciting and cool, but also trying to make sure we've got everything lined up for the business before I get to go do things that are going to be super exciting and fun to do is just very stressful right now.
Yeah. I can't imagine. It's hard to imagine many more bigger life events than having your first kid, or starting your own company.
So let's just roll them all up at the same time. No big deal.
Yeah. I as someone who's intimately involved in the process of getting everyone prepared for you to be out of the picture for a bit. There's a lot going into that. Still, it seems like it's going well. We're handing off more and more of your things to different people and lining up the different pieces.
Right.
Yeah, how's that feel? Does it feel weird to relinquish like that control?
More than anything, it's just like a big relief. For a long time, especially during the beginning, I was still trying to figure everything out, and so I didn't know what to hand off, and the things that I needed to hand off, I didn't know how. And so now that we've been doing this for at least a year, and a little change now. Bart just had his, shout out to Bart, feel free to plug yourself here.
What up,
Bart's
Bart?
Our marketing guy. And he just had his 1 year, so we're doing something right. And so that's been really exciting. So it's very exciting, and it's also kind of nice to finally have support and not have to be on the ghost pirate ship all alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like an important pivotal moment for startup founders. It's a moment that many of them don't have, which is like being able to like trust the people around them enough that to like relinquish that bit of control. Or so many founders I've worked with make themselves critical to each and every tiny little thing, so they're constantly playing like whack-a-mole and just like maintaining all of these systems or these different like tasks and stuff, and never have the ability to like actually run the company because they're so busy like being the company.
Right.
So yeah, props. I think I think it'll be a good reset. And yeah, I'm glad that you're having that moment, because so many founders get stuck in that like emergency mode that is pretty well justified like in the first few months of being a company. But I've known founders who had a company for like 5-6 years, and still every day it was like emergency mode for them. I'm gonna be like, yo man, like you've been profitable for a few years, like you can relinquish some of this. Like not every day has to be filled with disasters.
Right. And I think we were forced to learn that a little faster, not because I wanted to, but just because of situations and circumstance. A lot of times getting the right people on the bus, and you read that in books like 0 to 1 or literally any startup book ever, but it's so true. You just need the right people on the bus, and they're hard to find.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very thankful for the people that we work with. It's cool. They can just like be trusted. They're generally good at what they do.
Yeah, so I do want to pivot a little bit and kind of talk about some technical things first, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know you got some cool nerd stuff going on, so hit me with it. And as you're explaining this, I'm going to enjoy a little bit of our happy hour. So to explain,
cheers.
Yeah, cheers. So to explain our cool knitted shirts, which are great for southern summers. Am I drinking? We're doing this later than usual. This was originally planned as almost like a chill cocktail hour style session. When Walter realized he had to take the evening off, I already had my mezcal prepared with my lime and salt and everything, and
let's go.
I wasn't gonna put it back in the bottle at this point.
Amen.
Anyway, okay. So what's this new nerd sauce?
Yeah, so I've been seeing so much online about the agentic movement, and for the most part, it's been a nothing burger, except for the experiences I've had the past few days. And so I think it's important to kind of lay this out as things are moving so quickly and opportunity for engineers and even creatives for the most part that kind of get this paradigm moving into 2026 in particular.
Now,
Are
quickly,
going,
quickly, can you define the agentic movement for people who don't know that term?
Yeah, so agentic movement has a bunch of fun like definitions, but more likely than not, the high level breakdown of what agentic movement is kind of like having a robot that you can give orders to, and it can go and execute on that plan as an agent, not just an LLM, right? So like if you're a marketer and you do, email marketing, you could create an agent that can go find you warm leads for people that are into like red nail polish. And then the agent would just go until it would find, however many people you told it to find and bring it back to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a way to basically create a persona with a set of tools and abilities that can go out and perform a set of tasks on your behalf.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So the defining aspect of it is like it has a degree of independence, but also it's like able to like actually execute tasks instead of just telling you and be like, this is what.
Yeah. So instead of just being in a chat interface, right, it has a set of tools. So like, some people are using N8N and then augmenting it with different types of Webflow research. The way I've been using it has been pretty much exclusively with Claude Code, and then allowing it literally access to like a remote box that I don't mind if it explodes, so that it can just kind of do whatever it wants in projects that we're testing it on.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah. So the piece of this puzzle, there's two big pieces. The first piece I wanted to talk about is like they're calling it the director paradigm. And what that means is basically as a builder, you normally end up in a situation where you have like maybe an agency and a couple developers or a couple people working with you, and you end up creating like a backlog, you call it a sprint for Agile or anything that's exciting for you, and then you kind of like use that to execute on tasks until you've completed them and you've finished the delivery, right? And so what you can do with this director model is you can actually create a series of these agents that are all specialized in different things and use them all at once to perform multiple tasks that have no dependencies on each other in order to reach the end of a goal much, much faster.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so the reason why it's becoming so interesting is the current models are starting to have what they call emergent behavior. And so emergent behavior doesn't really show up on, like benchmarks or things like that. They're just like learning things that aren't as available as like what you would find on a test, right? And so basically what's happening right now, if you think about every time you talk to ChatGPT or something else, you have like this Etch-a-Sketch, and it starts writing on the board, and then like basically like eventually the board gets written on, and so it has to erase a chunk of the board to start writing new things, and so you start to like fragment your context.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically what you can do is like you can spawn a very large agent, right, with a big Etch-a-Sketch, and then basically what you can do is you can have it make a plan of work, or you don't really have it make a plan of work. You plan the work, right? And all the subtasks and all the things you need to get done. And then basically the context window or the Etch-a-Sketch of the director is literally only called to check the box that the other agent has succeeded in the task that it has done, right? And so what that means is you can now have many agents all working on things at the same time with like an actual project manager that is not losing context on those tasks.
Yeah, absolutely, because it doesn't have to focus on so much of having the plan and having to like reference that and having to do each of the pieces and then all the variables in there. There's just one agent that's focused on
directing.
Yeah, on the plan. And so whenever any little sub agent goes and does something and pings the director only has to say like, is this part of the plan or not? Like, is this moving forward?
The director's just checking to make sure that the tests that you and the director created passed.
Okay.
And if not, he sends that back to be worked until it's done.
That makes sense. So So is that the emergent behavior, or is there other
That
emergent?
is the emergent behavior. The emergent behavior is almost like the newer, bigger agents, the Opus, the O3 Max, the Gemini Pro, XL, like Memory High, are able to basically call these sub agents and use them as they see fit in ways that are very predictable, which is something that I wasn't expecting. So they're calling them like AI developer workflows, right? So like normally as a developer, I would sit down and I write my own custom tools. That way I don't have to do the same thing over and over again. I might write some like boilerplate codes that I can use to kind of like get a project up and running pretty quickly. You can do the same thing for these directors, and they just get it, which is the emergent behavior. They're just good at it. That like it's not something you can clearly define in a benchmark test, right? I mean, I'm sure they will make benchmarks for this soon, but it's new and it's exciting, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. Would my assumption be correct that right now these these new tools that are being made available, are they being mostly used by developers, and like is that the current push, is like software developers using them?
So I don't know that a lot of people know this exists. This is like new, like new as in like maybe been around for like tops 30 days, right? Like, and of course, like all the tech nerds are gonna be like, we've had Aider for years. I don't know what you're talking about. We've had this CLI tool that can like make AI write code. That's not what I'm talking about, right? What I'm talking about is the ability to orchestrate autonomous continuous integration and continuous delivery with agents and sub agents. Like that is the new emerging property.
That's incredibly cool.
So I have one more technical tidbit, and hopefully by the time this video comes out, I'll have this piece of software available.
Okay, cool.
So
yeah.
Cayman, and forgive me, because this is for the tech nerds. But something else I'm learning about is something called vector databases and knowledge graphs, right? So I'm going to explain vector databases the best that I know them, and of course there's going to be smarter people than me online that are talking about them, right? But one of the easy ways to think about a vector database or vector maps is whenever you look at Netflix and like say you watch, Free Ren or another anime, right? And it gives you like the suggested topics after. So like normally what happens is you have like the name of the thing and then the descriptors about the thing, right? And like those are like really, really big like descriptors. Like Free Ren is a mage who does blah, 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 right? And it's got a big paragraph, and then it has some like tags about the type of like anime it is. If it's a drama, if it's a comedy, if it's a romance, if it's a cooking anime, right? And that's a lot of like words. And so what a vector does is basically creates these like weights on words. So like different words have different weights, and they kind of the closer a word is to another word in meaning, the higher odds you have of that being predicted and given to you when you finish a show, right? So when it's like, you might like this, right? They use a vector map to map those shows to show you in real time.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
This makes sense to me as a non-technical person still.
Yeah. So that's the vector, right? And then let's talk about knowledge graphs for a second. So a knowledge graph is like, for example, if you were to write out the episodes of Free Ren, right? So episode 1, and this is what happens, right? Episode 2, and this is what happens. And you start to like write out these like documents, right? And so basically the knowledge graph will show like, here's Free Ren, and I don't know who's another character in there. The main, one of the other main characters.
Are we in
Of
episode?
course, I'm not gonna say what.
Fern is like
perfect.
her main protege.
And Fern is like connected to the priest, right? And so it's like the knowledge graph shows the relationships between the characters, if that makes sense.
Okay.
As they go through the show and their story, right? So the knowledge graph does that. So together you can have a knowledge graph that shows the relationship of things, and then with the keywords from the relationships, you can predict the weight of those relationships across a vector graph, if that makes sense. So you could be like, oh, Free Ren's a mage, and then the vector graph would show that like the class mage is also shared by Fern, right? Stuff like that. So you basically start to map different types of data in ways where you can predict stuff, right? Which brings us back to the director paradigm. So one of the things that is very interesting right now, and I don't know if you know this, but AI doesn't do anything except guess at what the next character should be on the input and the output.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to also try to relate this to something very, very simple on your computer. Every time you type a key on your computer, you're actually starting to create this like random library, because there's no such thing as being random, right? And so basically the more keys you type, the more unique your Unix or Linux or whatever, even Windows has this, to start to generate for you cryptographic keys, right? And so that's how you get unique fingerprints on everyone's computers, because no two people type the same way or do the same thing. Are you following?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Right.
That's similar to like other cybersecurity principles. Like you only really need like a handful of like unique identifiers to get like 99% confidence on like, oh yeah, this is Cayman who lives in East Atlanta and yada yada.
Yeah, it's more so around like your computer generates random characters and it uses you as the input to generate that randomness.
Okay.
If that makes sense. And so basically, getting back to the vector of things, right? Every time you spawn a new director, it's like talking to a new Mr. Meeseek. And that Mr. Meeseek is the same Mr. Meeseek that everybody else has. Predicts in the same way, because it's only trying to guess what you want, right? That's the only knowledge it has. Now enters the knowledge graph in the vector database, right? So when you ask the AI a question, you can actually provide that weight and that randomness that is Cayman or Walter to that AI before it replies. And then all of the past conversations you've ever had now influence the output of that guess.
Okay. So that's almost like the next evolution past like having a custom GPT or like a custom prompt before whatever. This is kind of like the next level that is like much more granular and powerful.
Yeah, and so like basically the director can be influenced by the vector and the knowledge base. But every sub-agent can also be influenced by the director and the knowledge base, thus cloning with a high degree of certainty the way that you like things done, like Tony Stark style.
Very cool.
Very neat, right? Very interesting. Now all the math behind that's the hard part.
Yeah, I can't speak to the math on that.
I thought it was really cool. It's been really fun to use this week. We started a new project to basically start generating our own knowledge bases and vector graphs. And so far it's been very successful in creating very similar outputs for the types of software that we like to write across different code bases. And so we're starting to get to the point to where it's repeatable and you can start to train your team on how to use this. And so basically the more conscious beings you have involved in the generation of that randomness, the higher degree of fidelity the guess is across a team, if that makes sense.
Okay. And to get like into specific use cases, you're talking about training it and such right now. Is this, you're talking about using this, is this focused on like the development of Spellcarver?
Spellcarver, and then the tool that actually generates the tokens was completely generated by me and these sub-agents to basically enhance the workflow for all backend services to be unified in a way where anyone could hop in and have context on the problem in 10 to 15 minutes and be ready to go to work.
Very cool. When you talk about like anyone getting in there, like
any of the developers, right? Because we kind of share across projects, so it's important to make sure that like when you're not losing a ton of context when you're logging in to do work for the day.
Yeah, it makes sense. So it's helping with in a sense like your documentation.
Yeah, it's less so about the documentation and it's more so about providing useful feedback in real time, right? Because like the documentation is the code and the conversations that the person that wrote the code and the agent that wrote the code had together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
So when you're like, hey, I need to update this piece of Spellcarver, it can be like, oh, well, that was last worked on Walter in chapter 3 of the anime, and this is the conversation that we had to make that happen, and this is what we learned.
Very cool.
Right? So it's literally like a manga for Spellcarver.
That's very cool. Yeah, that sounds like a much cooler way to see the documentation instead of like developer at the end of it being like, okay, and like this is what I did today and why, of like being able to see like the actual, being able to read back and be like, oh, this is like the exact like process that they worked through.
It's the memory of the event. The code name the project has right now is called Pensive, and on the README it's just a quote from Dumbledore about like the like a wizard can put his thoughts into the cap and then like another wizard can go and peer into it and see the memory. That's
love that.
more or less what it does.
I love that. I forgot about that Harry Potter gadget. I just thought you were just using the word that was like like reflecting, thinking deeply on the past. I forgot about the actual device in the book.
No, it's about the device because that's what it is.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. Yeah, let you actually relive the developer memories.
Yeah, and then the crazy part about it is like I had to make, which is so silly, but I had to write some like basically like golems to do work to kind of like categorize things and do stuff. And so it's almost like the in Harry Potter when the like the Hogwarts comes to life and it like moves stuff around to kind of like defend itself. It's a lot like that.
Nice. Ooh, what a perfect segue. So first off, before I pivot away, did we cover your
No, that's great. I tried to
thoughts?
open you up there.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so let's bring it back. Why the magic theme?
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents on it. So a lot of the time in my career, they would always talk about going and finding like the wizard. They'd be like, okay, we have this problem. One of our systems is down. We need to, find the wizard that knows how to solve this problem. And, throughout time, like I started to get known as being like, oh, he's a tech wizard. He's really good at solving these like silly problems with hardware and software. And so I was like, well, there's no better wizard than Merlin. So let's just name the company after him because that's about the top of the wizard totem pole, at least in my lore and my knowledge. And so that's why we went with the magic theme of it all. And then the mines, at the time, I was doing blockchain staking for Kraken. And so I was thinking I was just going to go do more staking. And what they call that in cryptography is mining. And so I was like, oh, well, Merlin Mines. Perfect. Easy. And so that's where the name came from.
Nice. That's neat. I love that. I remember when you first had that idea. Because that funny enough, I think you told me right after you named it, and I kind of forgot about it, and it came back to me later because my now fiance was like, hey, check out this thing I just designed for Walter, and that was like V1 of the logo we're using now.
Yeah. It looks great, by the way. We've, simplified it a little bit, but I think it'll hold up better.
Yeah, I agree. That wasn't even... I don't even think that was like a specifically us decision as much as Allie going like, hey, coming back to this a couple years later, more wisdom and experience.
Right.
We can make this better. Nice. Very cool. I'll add something else to the magic theme. The reason you and I first became close friends when we were little is we were little nerdlings. Like just starting off, and I think one of the first things we bonded over was Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a magic theme very much works and is on brand of like, that was, we were very young, but then after that, years of enjoying, everything fantasy, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Pokemon, all of the different RPGs, World of Warcraft, so on and so forth. I can't talk about. This podcast would go for a while if I talked about every single, alternate universe we've enjoyed.
Right. The amount of space the Warcraft lore takes up in my brain is a lot.
Yeah. Hey, I feel that. I feel like for me, that's like Star Wars. Like I know. Star Wars isn't even like that great. It's not perfect. It's one of those things that's very much like it's better. Overall, it's like better than the sum of its parts. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy how much I know about it. Does it do anything for me? No. Do I love it? Yes. And I'm just filling it up with more stuff like Baldur's Gate and like by extension Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
All right. So we talked about like having the right people on the bus earlier. Do you have like any particular qualities about a person, like whenever you're looking to bring them into the Merlin Mines Fellowship, to extend our nerd references?
Yeah. So there's a few things I'm learning that are very important to like the core. Like I'm going to be a little corporate here, but at the end of the day, the business gets its vibes from the CEO or at least the founder. One of the things I really like to find in people is people that are driven towards the thing that they're after, right? And that's like so ambiguous, but let me explain, right? If somebody is coming in and they anticipate that they're going to be able to do like the role that they originally came in for, right? Like we'll just use like systems administration or whatever, right? Like because we're small and we do a lot of consulting, opportunity for us comes in all shapes and sizes. And so being awake and being aware of those opportunities, even as a system administrator, is what gives us the opportunity to upsell in a deal or find a problem that we can solve or do things that kind of give us an opportunity that normally would get looked over, right? And so that's the kind of thing that I'm after in people. I also really think it's important that finding people that can not only do the job that they're after, but understand that when things don't go according to plan, or like when you're like what I would call blocked with the engineers, like you get it and you're like, oh cool, I can fix the problem, right? So like being able to just take ownership of the things that you do is also very important to us, right? Because my primary goal is to give you the opportunity to be yourself and live your life the way that you need to, so long as our customers' needs and expectations are met. And so I don't want to manage people ever. I'm the accidental boss, and I want to continue to be the accidental boss.
Yeah, you've been great at that. And I think talking about like navigating and getting your way through blockers is like an awesome thing to identify, because that's so key for small companies and startups. That's just where I've worked for most of my career, the better part of a decade now. And why I've been able to like navigate into like different parts of them is just kind of that mantra of like, oh no, there's this problem. And when it's a startup like this, sometimes there's just like nobody else to talk to about that.
Right.
And be like, oh hey, we have this accounting issue. Who's our accounting person?
Me.
Oh, it's me now. It's
What's
me now.
up?
Like, oh, okay, cool. We don't have one. All right, cool. I'll go figure that out.
Right.
Or like, God forbid, like, oh man, there's an HR issue. This company is like 15 people, so like, we don't have an HR.
Right.
Oh man, is this? I guess this is my HR issue to own now. Or whatever it may be, and that like independence and just figure it out. Use whatever's at your disposal, and
Right.
if you're really, really, really stuck, then you're able to ask another person who has that same mindset and can help you figure it out, even if they're not.
Even if we're just suffering together.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we're doing a little bit of this week as we're preparing for a contract, and we're just both having to learn a whole bunch of new things. And there's so many moments where I'm looking at this, be like, I have no idea what this means. Walter, do you have any idea what this means? You go, nah, me
I'm
neither.
like, I tried this last year. Here's my write-up from last time. Take a look.
Yeah, and yeah, sometimes you just got to figure it out and fly by the seat of your pants a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I mean, at least for smaller companies, that's just the way it is. Like, life isn't, square or round. It's somewhere in between. And making time to understand that that's okay. It's okay to have to figure things out on the fly. When I used to consult for a couple other companies, they called it JIT training, which I thought was terrible, which stands for just in time training. And so that was like a terrible nickname they would give to people that were like really good at like guerrilla warfare, where they could just get like dropped in the middle of nowhere and be like, everything's on fire. And they're like, oh, here, have some water. I found it. Like we can solve this problem. Did you guys know that there's like a well right here we can get water from? And people are like, there's a well?
I love that. Oh man, I'm going to need to work hard to not like incorporate that into
Please
my regular
don't.
lexicon.
It was terrible. I hated it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it, but do know that I'm going to think about that for years. Yeah. Maybe we can have a better term for it.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the types of things I'm usually looking for in people, and it's not so much that somebody they have to come in and they're like, oh, I'm a go-getter and yada 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 yada. Most of the time, those people aren't go-getters. The reality is like life happens, and when you take care of people, they take care of you, and so normally that's just kind of like rising to the occasion because you were given the opportunity and you feel safe with the people you work with to take it on.
I think you might have preemptively answered my next question to a degree. So I was gonna say like how do you empower people to make their own decisions? So like the company's success isn't like 100% on you, and to like provide that pathway for what we were discussing before of like you being able to feasibly take time off for your incoming new child.
Right. I mean, it's a lot of trust, and it's a lot of like, okay, like when you run out of inspiration, you fall back on your training or something like that, something silly that lots of smart people say. And so for me, it's like making sure that the backup plans have reasonable backup plans, and that most of the staff, or if not all of the staff, has like a plan and a backup plan, and the best I can to my ability. Not saying that like everything has to be controlled, but like there are playbooks, run books, and videos on everything that I do in the event that they need that and I can't give it to them.
Nice. That was such a good soundbite that I didn't have anything to add at the end.
We'll take it.
We have two big Merlin Mines anniversaries in the same month, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Let's go.
One of them we already talked about before. We'll call it out separately here. So Bart, our marketing guy, has been with us for a year. He's been with Merlin Mines longer than I've been, and absolutely crushes it. It's just getting better and better all the time. It's very funny because he'll often ask me questions about marketing because I've worked with marketing people more, but I'll often say like, hey, I'm not a marketing guy first and foremost. I've just intersected with them a lot. But he's gotten so much better. Like, not that he was bad before. Like, he's always had the drive and came with like skills, but yeah, just like his improvement has been incredible, and his drive. And the other person is Katie.
Nice. When's her 1 year?
It's either tomorrow or it's next week. I can check. It's on both.
I'll have to check the calendar.
It's on
Somebody's
both of our
been
calendars.
Keeping up with that. Let's go.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Not quite the same month. It's on August 1st. So,
Nice.
Yeah, the past few months I've worked with Bart more than you have, so I've already talked about him, what he's done. You know, he's always very ambitious in trying out new tools, and just like on things he uses, like on his, like, man, just like recently he like learned, was it Adobe After Effects to.
It's been killer, dude.
It's
like,
really good. Yeah, that.
I'm like, this is so good.
Yeah, that shit is hard. Like, I know a handful of animators, and I've like asked a couple questions, seen how they do it. It's black magic to me. So super impressed by that. Nice. Got any other exciting thoughts for the week?
You know, right now it's just about, I felt this mental shift over the past few months that has gone from like frantically running around trying to weave the world in place to like, okay, this is the path forward. I just have to show up and like move in that direction. And it's probably not going to be what I think it's going to be in the end, but the light is starting to appear in the tunnel. And for me, it's just been about like, okay, cool, this is it. We just have to keep moving through together, you know, with the raid group, trying to keep the tanks and the healers alive so we can get to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing that more and more, and it's yeah, that's exciting to see. Like, as long as we're sticking by these values, like our work ethic, and like, you know, these different processes, like we're always moving all of these different pieces forward. And 100% agree with you. I don't think we know exactly what it's going to turn out like, but we just see these different options kind of opening it up, and almost like, to continue with your raid thing, like it's like we're almost like at branching paths where it's like, oh, you can take A or B or C, and each of them you'll probably be able to beat the level at.
Right. Yeah, that's the weird part right now, is it's like, it's not so much about what do we want to do, but it's more about like, what don't we want to do, and what's going to protect the vibe, because I don't need to be a VC gajillionaire. Like, I just need enough to build cool stuff with my friends.
Yeah. Nice. Well, hey, I think that's that pivots into another thing that, like you said before, is like, you know, we'll keep it moving forward. And you said oftentimes like, hey, and if like X doesn't work out, we'll just start from scratch. We'll try again.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that, and like the mantra of like, you know, done is better than perfect.
Yeah, that's been a big one for us lately. You know, it's very easy to polish rocks, and so it's, you know, just got to get it out the door. You got to get it in the hands of people, and that's okay.
Yeah, I even in a different context, I talked to some musicians last night. I saw two of my friends perform. Shout out to Two Kaiju. It was their second performance ever. They've been doing music together for a few years, and their first performance was a month or two ago. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool. You've been doing music for a while. Like what prompted you to start? And they're like, yeah, we just needed to do it. You just need to take the plunge, do the first. I was like, yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, if you wait for it to be perfect, that moment will probably never come. Like, things rarely ever feel perfect. But, you know, kind of being pressured by situations, or just by making a commitment, lighting a fire under your own ass,
right,
to take that first step, I think that's a crucial thing to do.
Agreed.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good ending point.
Yeah,
Thanks to anyone who's watched this entire long form thing.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody's having a good, I don't know when this is going to come out, but I hope your week's going well. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, just remember, if you keep showing up and go in the direction that you're after, you'll get where you want to be.
See you next time.